Today, we're diving into something pretty incredible. It's a single, ancient prophecy that some people believe mapped out the entire course of Western civilization, from the golden age of Babylon all the way to, well, right now.
I mean, just think about that for a second. What if a single vision, thousands of years old, wasn't just some old story, but was actually a detailed roadmap of world history?
All right, so our story kicks off in the heart of the ancient world. We've got a ruler at the absolute peak of his power, but he's completely powerless over what's going on inside his own head.
So put yourself in his shoes. You're King Nebuchadnezzar. You rule the known world. Entire nations tremble when you speak. But then one night, you have this dream, and it's so intense, it shakes you to your core. The big problem? When you wake up, you can't remember the details, just this horrible feeling of dread. So of course, he calls in his wise men, his magicians, but they've got nothing. They're totally useless.
And right into the middle of this crisis steps a young prophet named Daniel, and he makes his unbelievable claim that his God can reveal not only what the king dreamed, but also what it all means for the world.
And right here, this is the moment where everything changes. Daniel tells the king that what he saw wasn't just some random nightmare, it was a divine revelation. He saw a giant statue made of all these different materials, and each part represents a future world power, laid out in a crystal-clear prophetic timeline.
So let's do this. Let's break down this incredible statue piece by piece, starting right at the very top. Each metal is a different empire, a whole different era in human history.
So Daniel explains that the statue's head was made of pure gold, and that gold, that was Babylon itself. I mean, gold was the perfect symbol for its supreme power, its insane wealth, and just its unmatched splendor.
Can you imagine? Daniel looks the most powerful man on the entire planet right in the eye and tells him, straight up, you are the head of gold. He's identifying Babylon as the glorious, but also temporary, start of this whole prophetic timeline.
But you know, the gold also stood for something else. Babylon was really the peak of human achievement at the time. But inside that golden gleam was hybris, right? Pride. Nebuchadnezzar saw himself as a god, and he truly believed his kingdom was invincible. And that very pride, well, that was the seed of its downfall.
Okay, so after the head of gold, we move down to a chest and arms made of silver. This, Daniel says, represents the next kingdom that would conquer Babylon, the Medo-Persian Empire. Now, silver's valuable for sure, but it's inferior to gold. And that symbolized an empire that was powerful, yeah, but just not as glorious as the one before it.
And the symbolism here is just brilliant. The two arms represent the union of two different peoples, the Medes and the Persians, coming together. And unlike Babylon, which was run by the absolute whim of one king, this empire was governed by the law of the Medes and Persians, a law that not even the king himself could change. It was strong, it was organized, but its whole power structure was fundamentally different.
Following the silver, the statue's belly and thighs were made of bronze. This points to the next world power, the Greek Empire, led by none other than Alexander the Great. And think about it. Bronze is the metal of armor, of weapons. It's a super clear symbol for an empire built on swift, relentless military conquest.
And the Greek expansion was just shockingly fast. It was like a lightning strike across the entire known world. The symbol of the belly is also pretty telling. You know, just like a stomach contains a lot of different things, the Greek Empire, for all its military might, was internally unstable. It was held together by conquest, not real unity, and it fractured almost immediately after Alexander died.
And that brings us down to the legs of the statue, and this is where the materials get way more complex and, frankly, a lot stranger. This section represents the fourth, and, in many ways, the final form of human empire in this whole prophecy.
So, the prophecy describes legs made of pure iron. This symbolizes a brutal, crushing empire that would just shatter all the others, and it's widely interpreted as the Roman Empire. But that iron strength doesn't last. It eventually gives way to feet made of this very strange mixture, iron and clay. Okay, and here is the crucial part. The feet aren't pure iron. They're this bizarre, impossible mix of iron and clay. Just look at this comparison. On one hand, you have the iron, the brute strength, the crushing force. But mixed right in with it, you have clay, which means inherent weakness, division, brittleness. Daniel literally explains that just as iron and clay can't ever truly mix and bond, this final version of the empire will be divided.
It will have the look of strength, but it's got this inner fragility that stops it from ever being truly unified.
So there you have it, this magnificent, terrifying statue representing the whole sweep of human history. But the dream doesn't end there. The climax is something else entirely, something not made by human hands.
All of a sudden, a stone appears, and it's described very specifically as being cut out by no human hand. Now that detail is absolutely critical. While every single part of that statue represents kingdoms built by human ambition and power, this stone is different. Its origin is supernatural.
So what does this stone do? It flies and it strikes the statue right on its most vulnerable part, those feet of mixed iron and clay. And the impact isn't gradual, it's not a slow decline. In a single moment, the entire statue, from the iron legs all the way up to the golden head, shatters completely. All the empires it represents just collapse at once.
This quote, wow, it just powerfully captures the total and complete nature of the destruction. The remnants of these great, powerful empires become like worthless chaff, the husks of grain, and they're just blown away by the wind until not a single trace is left behind. This isn't just another transition of power from one kingdom to the next. It is the absolute final end of the entire system of human-led empires.
But the destruction of the statue isn't the end of the story. It's actually the beginning of something totally new, something permanent. And this is where the prophecy really pivots to its ultimate conclusion and why it's so relevant for us today.
That same supernatural stone doesn't just disappear after it does its work. It begins to grow, and it grows into a great mountain that fills the entire earth. Daniel explains that this represents a final kingdom, one established by God himself, that will never be conquered, never be destroyed, or passed on to another people. It is a kingdom that will stand forever.
And so this brings us to the final, lingering question that this ancient dream really leaves us with. When we look at our world today, all the power struggles, the ambitions of nations, this constant mix of incredible strength and deep, deep division, doesn't it kind of mirror that statue? You have to wonder, are we simply the final version of that mix of iron and clay, just walking that same old path of pride that history has shown us again and again only leads to ruin? That's definitely something to think about.